Greetings to all of you. A warm welcome to all of you, my dear ones. And this day I will start a new broadcast, a new education, which is more a deeper study than probably we did in, let me say, a couple of months ago. But anyway, please come with me and I will give you an expression of notes on contemplation, the inner experience. And our first start will be a preliminary warning. And it's about Thomas Merton. And I think a lot of you people know this monk for his inner experience of contemplation. Please listen to me when we go through certain studies and experience he has, and let it be of a help. This is your Pastor Yeti. Man in our day, menaged on all sides with ruin, is it at the same time beset with illusory promises of happiness? Both threat and promise often comes from the same political source. Both hell and heaven have become, so they say, immediated possibilities here on earth. It is true that the emotional hell and the heaven, which each one of us carries about within them, tend to become more and more public and common property. And as time goes on, it seems evident that what we have to share seems to be not so much one another's heaven as one another's hell. For the desire which we cherish in the secrecy of our soul as our heaven sometimes turns, when offered as a solution to common problems, into everybody's hell. This is one of the curious features of 20th century civilization and of its discontents. Into the midst of this moral and emotional chaos, popular psychologists and religious teachers, men of pathetic optimism and goodwill, have rushed forward hopefully to announce their message of comfort. Seldom concerned with the afterlife, whether good or evil, as befits man of our time, and I mean man for the whole humanity. And maybe I can better use the word man, use the word humanity than man. They want to set things right for us here and now, and they want us at all costs to be inspired, uplifted. They fret over our distressing tendencies to see the dark side of modern life, because they are able to imagine that it has a light side somewhere. Have we not, after all, made the most remarkable progress? Is the standard of living not rising every day? And is not our lot becoming always better and better? So that soon we will have to work less and less in order to enjoy more and more. With a dash of psychological self-help and a decent minimum of religious conformity. Excuse me. We can adjust ourselves to the emptiness of lives that are so blissfully devoid of struggle, sacrifice, or efforts. These willing counselors want to revive our confidence in all the gestures of bourgeois good feeling, which will magically turn pain into pleasure and sorrow into joy, because God is in heaven and all's right with the world. At such time it would be singularly unfeeling as well as dishonest for me to suggest that peace, joy, and happiness are easily found along that most arid stretch of humanity's spiritual pilgrimage, the life of contemplation. More often than not, the way of contemplation is not even a way, and if one follows it, what he finds is nothing. Later on, as we move forward, we hope to justify the apparent fruitlessness of the quest. But at present it is important to make clear that, as we go in the study, has no intention of solving anybody's problems or of offering anybody an easy way out of his difficulties. At best, it may help to bring a little reassurance to those whose difficulties are characteristically spiritual and contemplative, which means that they are barely possible to formulate at all. One of the strange laws of the contemplative life is that in it you do not sit down and solve problems. You bear with them until they somehow solve themselves, or until life itself solves them for you. Usually the solution consists in a discovery that they only existed insofar as they were inseparable, connected with your own illusory exterior self. The solution of most such problems comes with the dissolution of this false self. And consequently, another law of the contemplative life is that if you enter it with the set purpose of seeking contemplation, or worse still, happiness, you will find neither. For neither can be found unless it is first in some sense renounced. And again, this means renouncing the illusory self that seeks to be happy and to find fulfillment, whatever that may mean in contemplation. For contemplation, for the contemplative and spiritual self, the dormant, mysterious, and hidden self that is always effaced by the activity of our exterior self does not seek fulfillment. It is content to be, and in its being it is fulfilled because its being is rooted in God. If then you are intent on becoming a contemplative, you will probably waste your time and do yourself considerable harm by listening in what I have to say to you. But if in some sense you are already a contemplative, whatever you know it or not makes life difference, you will perhaps not only listen to me with a kind of obscure awareness that it is meant for you, but you may even find yourself having to listen to the things I have to say, whether it fits in what your plans or not. In that event, I invite you to listen. Do not watch for results, for they will already have been produced long before you will be capable of seeing them. And pray for me, because from now on we are, in some strange ways, good friends. The purpose of this opening is not simply to punish but to make clear that this study we are all going into in no sense aspires to be classified as inspirational. And that is to say, it does not aim at making it like a feel good about certain spiritual opportunities which it claims at the same time to open up to him, nor does it pretend to remind anyone of a duty he has failed to perform or attempt to show him how to perform it better. It does not claim to deliver a new and original message that has been hitherto ignored and which will restore through perspectives falsified by the short-sightedness of other spiritual writers. And finally, it contains no meretricious promises that one can become a kind of superior being by enrolling himself in an esoteric elite or so-called contemplative, because I am not going the way of esotery. The worst thing that can happen to humanity, who is already divided up into a dozen different compartments, is to seal off yet another compartment and tell him that this one is more important than all the others, and that he must henceforth exercise special care in keeping it separate from them. That is what tends to happen when contemplation is unwisely thrust without warning up the bewilderment and distraction of the Western man. The Eastern traditions have the advantage of disposing man more naturally for contemplation. The first thing that you have to do, and I speak also for myself, before you even start thinking about such a thing as contemplation, is to try to discover your basic natural unity to reintegrate. Your compartmentalized being into a coordinated and simple whole. Learn to live as a unified human person. This means that you have to bring back together the fragments of your distracted existence so that when you say I, there is really someone present to support the pronoun you have uttered. Reflect sometimes on the disquieting fact that most of your statements of opinions, taste, deeds, desires, hopes, and fears are statements about someone who is not really present. When you say, I think, it is often not you who think, but they. It is the anonymous authority of the collective speaking through your mask. When you say, I want, you are sometimes simply making an automatic gesture of accepting, paying for what has been forced upon you. And that is to say, you reach out for what you have been made to want. Who is this I that you imagine yourself to be? An easy and pragmatic branch of psychological thought will tell you that if you can hook up your pronoun with your proper name and declare that you are the bearer of that name, you know who you are. You are aware of yourself as a person. Perhaps there is a beginning of truth in this. It is better to describe yourself with a name that is yours, along than with a noun that applies to a whole species. For then you are evidently aware of yourself as an individual subject, and not just as an object, or as a nameless unit in a multitude. It is true that for modern man even to be able to call himself by his own proper name is an achievement that evokes wonder both in himself and in others. But this is only a beginning, and a beginning that primitive man would perhaps have been able to laugh at. For when a person appears to know his own name, it is still no guarantee that he is aware of the name as representing a real person. On the contrary, it may be the name of a fictitious character occupied in very active self-impersonation in the whole of world of business, of politics, of scholarship, or of religion. This, however, is not the I who can stand in the presence of God and be aware of Him as a thou. For this I, there is perhaps no clear thou at all. Perhaps even other people are merely extensions of the I, reflections of it, modifications of it, aspects of it. Perhaps for this I, there is no clear distinction, perhaps itself and other objects. It may find itself immersed in the world of objects and to have lost its own subjectivity, even though it may be very conscious and even aggressively defined in saying I. If such an I one day hears about contemplation, he will perhaps set himself to become a contemplative, and that is, he will wish to admire in himself something called contemplation. And in order to see it, he will reflect on his alienate self. He will make contemplative faces at himself like a child in front of a mirror. He will cultivate a contemplative look that seems appropriate to him and that he looks to see in himself. And the fact that this busy narcissism is turned within and feels upon itself in stillness and secret love will make him believe that his experience of himself is an experience of God. But the exterior I, the I of projects, of temporal finalities, the I that manipulates objects in order to take possession of them, is alien from the hidden interior I, who has no projects and seeks to accomplish nothing, even contemplation. He seeks only to be and to move, for he is dynamic, according to the secret laws of being itself and according to the promptings of a superior freedom, that is of God, rather than to plan and to achieve according to his own desires. It will be ironically indeed if the exterior self seized upon something within himself and slyly manipulates it as if to take possession of some inner contemplative secret, imagining that this manipulation can somehow lead to the emerge of an inner self. The inner self is precisely that self which cannot be tricked or manipulated by anyone, even by the devil. He is like a very shy wild animal that never appears at all whenever an alien presence is at hand, and comes out only when all is perfectly peaceful, in silence when he is untroubled and alone. He cannot be lured by anyone or anything, because he responds to no lure except that of the divine freedom. Sad is the case of that exterior self that imagines himself contemplative and seeks to achieve contemplation as the fruit of planned effort and of spiritual ambition. He will assume varied attitudes, meditate on the inner significance of his own postures, and try to fabricate for himself a contemplative identity. And all the while, there is nobody there. There is only an illusory, fictional I, which seeks himself, struggles to create itself out of nothing, maintained in being by its own compulsion, and the prisoner of his private illusion. The call to contemplation is not and cannot be addressed to such an I. My beautiful people, I think this is going to be very interesting, but also not very easy. The meaning of this new education that I will walk with you in, together move on from one chapter to another, doesn't mean that I will be the judgment given to you. No. It is a experience of the inner self, the awakening of the inner self. And we go through different experiences. And I hope that you walk with me. We know that life is not easy. There is a lot going on, and I think as it was in the beginning, it never was easy. But I encourage you to come with me and walk in this, the inner experience on contemplation. May God bless you. May God fill your soul as we walk from here to another experience. And also as we do together the other studying and spirituality in my other broadcasting. The meaning of all this is that your souls will be drawn more in the experience and the acknowledge of God. The purpose to come more closer in the intimacy of Jesus. It is like I said in the beginning, it's not the meaning that it will be an easy part to move along with each other in this study, but to focus on yourself and to see what's there for you. And again I say, we're not moving on to be each other's judge, only love. Blessings to all of you, my dear ones. This is your Pastor Yeti. Bye.